Well, we are happy today to welcome John Kitchens, November Sierra 6 X-ray. He has been the ARRL Santa Barbara section manager for over 10 years and is currently campaigning for the Southwestern Division Vice Director. I'm excited to hear John's ideas for strengthening the ARRL and making their 2026 Year of the Club a meaningful initiative. I do hope that all participants take advantage of today's opportunity to engage and ask questions of a potential ARRL Vice Director. Please note that the invitation to present here today does not constitute an endorsement from the W6TRW Amateur Radio Club. The ground rules for today's presentation and discussion are that there shall be no discussion of opponents or other candidates in the ARRL election, and the call today will be recorded. Hopefully you notice the recording in progress indicator. That recording will not be published by the W6TRW Amateur Radio Club. However, both our presenter and club members may receive copies of the recording, and individuals receiving copies are responsible for appropriate use and distribution. If you do not wish to appear in the recording, please make sure your cameras are off and your screen name is appropriate for public distribution. All right. With that, thank you, John, for joining us, and please take it away.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. And I learned the last 2 weeks about the Quansheng radio, and I ordered a couple from Amazon, and now I need to watch your YouTube video, Mark, about how to work 2-meter CW from a handheld. So I don't have to bring out my old ICOM 251 and big antennas and such to set up. I used to do a lot of hilltop VHF, UHF contesting. I actually had the January VHF sweepstakes record at one time, way back when. Mark mentioned something about the recording and proper use, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to briefly let you know that after the July board meeting, there was a decision made about proper election etiquette and what we can and cannot do. A couple of things. We cannot do anything that would knowingly put our message outside of the division. So I've been asked by several people to be interviewed on their podcast. My answer is I'd love to, but you have to make sure that the podcast doesn't go outside of the division, and the division being Arizona and Southern California. And the internet doesn't work that way, so I haven't been able to do a podcast in that way. I also, as Mark mentioned, I cannot talk about my opponents or anyone else who's running for an office. So there is a contested election for director. There are 2 people running, Dick Norton and Rick Paquette. And then there are 2 people running for vice director, me and David Ginsburg. We are not allowed to talk about, or I'm not allowed to talk about any of those other 3 people. Also, what they determined about 2 weeks ago, and it's, to me, I'll be honest, it doesn't make sense to me, but I can take my own recording and post it on my own YouTube channel and draw people to that YouTube channel. I cannot, and I didn't argue, I didn't say, well, the internet doesn't work that way, anyone could look at it. But anyway, those are some of the rules that have come up. And there are reasons for that, I guess. And the thing is that a vice director does not vote on the board. The way a board should work is that the board sets the governance or the tone for the association. We have a CEO who runs the day-to-day operation, and the board should be telling the CEO what to do. And if the CEO does it, keeps his job. If the CEO doesn't, the board can decide to find a new CEO, which is the way things should operate, and that's the way most places operate. Yes, I've been in ham radio. I grew up in Gardena, and I went to Robert E. Peary Junior High School, where I was licensed by Don Ulray, WA6TRX, and had the club call of WA6VUA, and that was in the seventh grade. And if any of you were around at that time, Gardena High School's electric shop, the teacher didn't like ham radio, so we didn't have a ham radio station at the high school where I graduated from. My work, I retired from the Los Angeles City Fire Department as a fire captain and a paramedic. Where I was a paramedic, and well, I was there for a long time. And I had a great career there. I was the ARRL liaison for the city of Los Angeles until we had an issue with ARRL, and we dumped ARRL and went to DCS. And I can answer those questions if you want at some time. Couple of things about, well, let's get into this. The first part of the presentation is just a basic background of the ARRL. I'll go through it quickly. This is a canned presentation from the ARRL, and then the last few slides are about me and what my vision for the vice director's position, depending on whom I'm working with as director. What the ARRL is, ARRL, American Radio Relay League, don't do that, is supposed to do is support the science and technology and the art of ham radio. There are 5 pillars that the ARRL works on: public service, advocacy, education, technology, membership. As I mentioned, we're going to find out in a section manager meeting tonight what some of that advocacy is, the legislation. We're told that we're going to have a meeting to discuss HOA legislation, and it's going, whatever's happening, we don't know yet. We'll find out tonight. Whatever's happening, it will be rolled out tomorrow. So whatever happens, I'll send an email to you, even though Diana Feinberg is your section manager. We look at spectrum defense. As the AST satellite company requested 5 frequencies within our 430 to 440 megahertz range. And we look at the advocacy such as HOA legislation, which I didn't think would ever happen. The PRB1 to talk about antenna regulations to require a city or a government agency to have reasonable antenna accommodations. And one of the things that I like anyway is the Teachers Institute and the Collegiate Amateur Radio Program. I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. There are benefits of membership, the 4 magazines, e-newsletters about just about every topic you can figure out. We provide services that I'm sure you're all familiar with. One of the things that's been discussed lately is the outgoing QSL service and the incoming QSL bureaus, talking about defunding those. But the cost is only about $100,000 a year. I say only, but that's a lot of money, but it's in the big picture of life, it's not a lot of money to provide a service if you still get QSL cards. I distribute the X section for the 6th district QSL cards, and the number of cards has diminished and decreased over the last several years. There are more than 2,500 affiliated radio clubs. Biggest program, you're familiar with Field Day. My Field Day effort is driving around the section, visiting sites and letting people know how great they are. But we had in Ventura County, the Conejo Valley Amateur Radio Club had a 23 Alpha. And when the Field Day began, all 23 stations were transmitting. And then there's also a 12 Alpha and a 10 Alpha in the county. We have the awards and W1AW and such that we do. There's the 4 magazines, and they're all available online. No extra cost. If you want to get a printed edition of any of those 4, it's going to be $25 extra. Public service. This is the ARRL 90th anniversary, and the Amateur Radio Emergency Services. The program is being updated by Josh Johnstone and his team. There will be an additional program coming out that's available online at the ARRL.org website, which desperately needs to be updated. One of the things I would like to work on, but that program is for leadership. And ARRS is realizing that we're not going to be asked by the local fire department or police department, especially in Southern California, to come in and provide communication support when their stuff goes down, mainly because most of it is very redundant. And there are other political issues where volunteers are not going to be used. And just imagine the fire department communication system goes down, or police department communication system goes down, and you have to call in a ham that takes 6 hours to get there. That's not going to work. Other places in the country where there are volunteer fire departments and 1 police officer provided for the county, there are roles for ARRS. But we are supporting things like Red Cross and Salvation Army and some other individual organizations. We have the government liaison, legislation, and such. We talked about that. Education is a licensing class support. We have online classes at ARRL.org in the education section. We are a nonprofit that sells books. There are video classes, and we have podcasts. Now, I'm not going to discuss the quality of the podcasts and the online classes. The online classes are pretty good, but the podcasts are not nimble and are not immediately available for topics and immediate topics, because the podcast has to be reviewed by a committee before it's provided. The ARRL lab is still there. We're looking at mode support, experimenting support. If you go to a major hamvention, the ARRL lab will be there to test your handheld and find out which Baofeng is good and which one isn't as good. We have insurance programs. I was told Saturday at the event I was at that there are clubs that utilize insurance programs for ARRL. We have nearly 150,000 members. Actually, it's now down to 120,000. And that doesn't give us a tremendous lobbying support. There are 850,000 roughly licensed TAMs in the FCC database. But because licenses are good for 10 years, those hams may be no longer with us. How many people get licensed and even buy an inexpensive radio and never use it? But the ARRL is organized in 15 divisions, 71 sections, and like I said, there are 25 plus affiliated clubs. There's free student membership, was started in 2024. If you're a student and 21 years or younger, you can have a free student membership. It doesn't provide you voting privileges, but it's free. You get all other access to the website and all the magazines. Full student membership is if you're under age 26, it's $30 per year, which includes voting privileges. One of the things that we're finding is that people take advantage of the free membership, but they don't continue with the ARRL. But one of the things we need to do as ARRL is do a few studies, and they don't have to be expensive formal studies. No one has asked student member why they did not continue in as members of the ARRL. So those are some of the things we need to do. For a hobby that is involved with communications, we communicate very poorly, and we need to improve that, both internal public relations and external public relations. In the Santa Barbara section, I personally I don't take responsibility or take credit for doing a lot of these things. As far as most clubs have grown. The Conejo Valley Amateur Radio Club has more than 70 people show up at a club meeting, and they're looking for a new facility because it's standing room only. The Ventura County Amateur Radio Club did find a new meeting because they were in a small area that only held about 35, 40 people, and they had standing room only, and they have a much better location now. There are several new clubs. The Central Coast Amateur Radio Group is meeting tomorrow night for a club that's been 2 years in existence. Started out in Dave Wall's garage, and they now have a meeting room at the Grover Beach Community Center. So the things that we've looked at and pushed, and I've tried to support where I can, but not interfere, is making ham radio fun. That's what it's supposed to be. Yes, it's a technical hobby, and yes, we learn a lot about electronics and a lot of other stuff. We learn about weather and propagation and why the atmosphere is the way it is. But again, it's fun. I've enjoyed learning about all the various things I've learned about, not just electronics. I'm getting out in the field again. I did a 3-month POTA trip last year. Once I'm become vice director, I probably won't be doing 3-month cross-country trip. But I activated 47 states from 74 unique parks. I did not go to Washington. I ended my trip in around Lassen last August, where it was 106 degrees. I'd been on the road 3 months. I was traveling with my evil cat, and I just said, I'm not going to Washington. I'm hot, tired. I'm going home. But so now I'm going to have to go to Washington to activate the 48th continental United States state, and then plan a trip to Alaska and Hawaii so I can have worked all states from all states. And I started doing SOTA, so that's been fun. These are the things that I look at. I'm going to start down at the bottom. Internal and external public relations. We need to get the message out. I give talks to service groups, Rotary Club, Elks, Moose Lodge, YMCA, schools, and such to talk about ham radio. I have always said that I'm not here to sell ARRL memberships. I'm here to sell ham radio. And I've always believed that there's just a certain percentage of ham radio operators who are going to become ARRL members, and I don't need to sell it or push it. I just need to make it available and let people understand why they should be members. The Teachers Institute. I've been to what I used to call Dayton, but Hamvention for the last several years. I also go to 4 days in May at the same time, which is the real reason I go. But the Teachers Institute, I talked to Steve Goodgame there and asked him about the expenses he's incurring, because that's what I've been hearing about. And I just heard about it again Saturday, the $1 million that's being spent by Teachers Institute. Well, I asked Steve, and he said he got a little bit indignant. And I said, no, I'm trying to get information. And he said the Teachers Institute is paid mostly by donations, including his salary for the work he does in the Teachers Institute. So to me, there's no downside to the Teachers Institute. It doesn't take away from anything else at the headquarters, and it doesn't cost us anything. What we haven't done, and what I think is appropriate to do, is look at the results of the Teachers Institute and have somewhat of an actuarial, I guess you might call it, review of how beneficial the Teachers Institute is. There are people who like to pay for it, so I think that's appropriate. We need to look at how money is spent. There needs to be more clarity. The director being and I'm vice director, so I'm not a voting board member. And I was told by our current director, he didn't know why anyone would want to be a vice director, because all I do is sit against the wall at the meeting, don't say anything, and don't vote. But I view the vice director as being someone who is there to support, work on committees, and become the director when the director is needed due to whatever reason for the director not being at the meeting. But we look at how money is spent. There was $800,000 moved from our investment account into the general fund with no explanation. That was last year. So I think we need to have clarity on that type of money movement. Was that to pay for the Teachers Institute? Did we have investment? Did the donations go into investment fund? Was that to pay for general operating expenses? We don't know. And $800,000 coming out of your investment account, if you have an IRA or a 401k, you know that taking well, there's $41,000 in investments, so taking 1/40th of your fund away will significantly impact the amount of interest you earn, which impacts the potential for, like in a 401k, your ability to retire. So we need to look at why things such as that are done. We need to increase membership, but why are you a member? I ask that question myself a lot, and whenever I'm giving the presentation or talking to a club, I ask that reason. Why should you be a member? And we saw a few reasons why above, but I think it's more significant and more important for those external and, more importantly, internal public relations to get out to explain to people why they are members and give them the accomplishments that the ARRL has made in a timely manner. When we had that delete request from the FCC to discuss ways of streamlining the FCC, that was in response to President Trump's demand from all departments to decrease their budgets and decrease their spending. ARRL did respond and did present it, but I didn't know about it. I didn't know that they were going to respond. I asked many times how we should respond through my internal system, and I wasn't given an answer. Directors, vice directors are not allowed to personally respond to notices of proposed rulemaking from the FCC because as a director or vice director, they're directly responsive to the ARRL, and when they speak on behalf of the ARRL, which is a difference between a section manager and a director. As section manager, I am not, my chain of command does not go up through the director. My chain of command goes to the field services manager back in headquarters in Newington, Connecticut. So I do not, in a sense, I'm not on the team with the director, and depending upon the director, section managers either are or are not actively involved in the director's team. Way back when, one of my other jobs, I've done a lot of different things. Being a firefighter, I have days off, so I had other businesses that I did, including teaching both fire technology and journalism at Valley College. So I understand public relations, and I had a small public relations business. But we need to get the message out in a timely manner. For those of you who looked at, and I keep saying that over and over, for those of you who cared about or looked at the request for AST to take a specific frequencies in the 430 to 440 megahertz range, ARRL did respond, but they didn't tell us they responded until after the response period ended. So I think we need to at least know that something is going to happen. Some of the comments I received, many of them, were that, what's the ARRL doing? We don't know what they're doing. Apparently, they're not doing anything to respond to this and protect our frequencies. So that's something that I think is very important to get the message out. We do have the various newsletters that you can sign up for as a member, but none of those newsletters had the information about those frequencies being taken or requests to take them, which has not occurred yet. And as an end, the ARRL is not perfect. There is room for improvement, as with any organization. I'm sure you're still looking at W6TRW as ways to improve. I know as someone who occasionally sells at the swap meet, we need to improve that. I remember when that parking lot would have been packed with ham radio equipment for sale. Different times, different era. And what do we do with it? But what we can do and what we need to do is work together to, I misspelled perfection, we need to achieve that perfection. And I apologize for that misspelling. I read this dozens of times and I didn't see that until now. So that's it. That's my presentation. Bill had asked about licensing. Why can't we get a GMRS license with a tech or a general or even an extra license? I don't know. Other than they're two different programs and they have different rules and regulations. But there is no test for the GMRS. You just get an information sheet and pay your money. And that could be the reason why FCC wants some money, but I don't know. But I will look into that and see what an official explanation might be. So, any questions?
Well, thank you, John, for the presentation and walking us through both what ARRL offers to its members and also for what your vision is for ARRL as a candidate. So I have a whole list of questions on my side, but I want to make sure that anybody who has joined this call gets first dibs. So does anybody in the audience have questions?
I'm sure they'll come up as you go through it. Yeah, so go ahead.
All right. Anybody else? Well, hearing none. So I've broken my question sort of into three pieces. One is contests, one is clubs, and one is membership and ARRL operations. So you and I were able to talk on the phone before this call, and I really appreciated that opportunity. I wanted to get your take on what is the objective of ARRL's contests portion of the organization, since that's one of the most visible things it does. Why do these exist?
I know my reason for contests is to have fun, and to enter into radio competitions. Um, Historically, our culture likes competition and who's the fastest uh, runner, who can eat the most hot dogs. Um, so I think that's part of the reason for contests. Um, but there are several issues there. The reason for contests I think it's gone in many ways too far. We don't want people to cheat, but at the same time, we have um, issues with uh, overbearing rule enforcements. Um, Field day used to be a contest. It no longer is, but there are points. Uh, so many people still view it as a contest and treat it as a contest. Um, but I remember being part of the Zuni Looper QRP event because I like QRP. Um, they, we went up to before the rules didn't allow it. We would go up days before field day started to put up our 80-meter wire beam and other antennas up in the Angeles forest, and work strictly CW and on QRP. And that was fun if you can consider like what we've done with VHF contests, and it got to the point where Chip Angle N6CA took over Fraser Peak after we had been using it as K6MEP, and made it even larger. But going up on Wednesday before the Saturday start of the VHF UHF contest to set up antennas and radio stations, because he filled up the entire Fraser Peak with radios, which is partly why the Forest Service has created some limitations on who can be there. We used to, one of my jobs was 6 months before the contest started, I would go to the Forest Service office and get the permit to use the peak. But contests, I always viewed contests as a personal um, uh, accounting of my operating ability, my station capability, and what I can do with uh, when I was operating QRP, which I have mostly in the recent contests in the last 5 years or so, uh, operate in the QRP section of the DXing contest, both CQ and the ARRL and the California QSO party. And I have mostly been operating portable. So, I mean, contests are different things to different people. Some people look strictly at the competition, the Potomac Valley Amateur Radio Club, East Coast, the Rochester VHF group. Their goal was to win and win the country or the international competition and be first in the world. My goal is to try to do better than I did last year, try out new antennas, see how long I can make my battery last, and things such as that. And when I used to be a serious contester, serious meaning I would sit in the chair for 36 hours, and you know, operate, running contacts as fast as I can. Sunday afternoon, working the JAs, you know, 80 a minute. No, not a minute. Yeah, 80 a minute. Um, uh, I can sort of communicate in Japanese a little bit. Um, I went to Gardena High School. I had to marry my high school sweetheart, and being in Gardena, that had to be Japanese. So I promised her father that I would learn Japanese since he was a Japanese language school teacher. But I mean, that was fun. You know, as fast as you could go, um, and have a pile up waiting for you there. But that meant I had to have a great station. So I went to someone else's house to operate. So I think those are all the reasons for contests. ARRL looks at it as people getting active in their contests, uh, and something that is supposed to create fun for members and non-members. And I like to look at it as being an exposure for the ARRL. CQ Magazine is no longer, but the CQ contests have been taken over. So the CQ contests are very popular contests. Um, and same thing there. Uh, it's a way to not just have fun, but for the top contesters to compete, and satisfy that competition need in us. I guess there's a need, uh, and continue that. So is that kind of sort of what you were looking for in a
That was
long-winded
that
way?
was a pretty long form answer.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think what you're saying is that you have a lot of your own personal reasons. For the ARRL, it's a way to get people active, to create fun for members and non-members, and to promote the ARRL. So,
yes.
given those objectives, what changes could be made to the way that the ARRL conducts contests that would encourage growth in the same way that portable operating activities like POTA, which you do, and SOTA, which you do, have seen a lot of growth recently? So what could you change in the way that the ARRL runs contests to promote growth and meet the ARRL's own objectives?
Well, I think we should have multiple or two categories in the contest: serious contesters and fun contesters. People who want to work a DX contest so they can get 100 DX, so they can get DXCC in a weekend. But they're not necessarily interested in contesting, winning, but it would be nice to submit a log. So I think there could be two ways to submit a log. One serious contester that cares about the score and is going to submit their Cabrillo log, so it can be easily checked, and cross-checked, and for dupes and such. And then you can have the non-contester contester who can submit their log uh, in a format that's comfortable for them, and maybe they're not as interested in winning the contest, but they're interested in submitting uh, their log. Maybe it's the first or second time they've ever contested, don't feel as though they can compete. So send it in without cross-checking and checking the log, with less restrictions on them, so that they can also see how they fared against other people. Contesting, real-time contesting. I know there's a lot of discussion about having some of the top contesters have, I'm trying to figure out what to call it, but where it's a real-time submittal of scores, of contacts, that's monitored internationally via the internet, so that we know how we're doing on a time basis, and maybe even have a commentator come in, and we can have the wide world of radio contesting, where we can see that you know, KD6, yeah, TS. My tongue isn't working there. Just made 2 QSOs with China. Now he's increased the dupes or the multipliers and just moved ahead. And it's things such as that. We can have real-time commenting also. I think that's something that would be interesting. And I think that's it. I think contesting right now is a little bit restrictive, and it's focused on the people who are focusing on contesting aren't all gray-haired white men, but most of them are. And we need to do things that can bring younger people in. And I'd have to ask people, newer people, not just younger people, but newer people into contesting.
Hey, this is Alex, Kilo Oscar 6 Hotel X-Ray Hotel. I'm one of the newer guys. Oh, sorry, my microphone's can you guys hear me okay?
I understand you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I do actually a lot of competitions outside of radio. One of the competitions I do is the National Rifle League. It's like amateur rifle competitions. And
Yeah.
one of the things they do is they've sort of decentralized all of the competitions across the nation, but they've created sort of a standard for how you shape these competitions. And then all of the results are sort of ranked and scored and data logged onto a website. They have a website, I think, called Practice Score or something like that. But it lets you track your progress and how you're doing. I was wondering, is there funding for ARRL to sort of standardize a set of competitions, say fox hunting, for instance, and standardize a format for how it's done? And I think a big thing that draws newer people to it is, what am I achieving beyond just gaining skill? Are there small prizes? Say, like even as simple as an equivalent to a QSL card for having shown up and competed or even won.
I like that idea, and I didn't mention it, but I will never win a major contest. No, I might win my section. I might win my division in the contest as far as QRP and whatever, but it's very different from the West Coast to the East Coast. I mean, I was in Maine last year, and they were talking there about how difficult it is to work into Asia. And I never thought of that before. And I laughed about him. I said, no, I push away JA contacts. I said, I'm tired of them, especially on FT8. So I'll do activate a park on with digital modes, and the JAs are there every afternoon. So yeah, funding for that. So different categories: wire antennas, low power. Most of the contests are starting to create those sections in the contest. I know they've actually created an overlay for a wire antenna or just a simple vertical. But also, I like the idea of regional contesting or scores, which is sort of done in the ARRL contests and even CQ contests, where you have division leaders and section leaders and such. Division, like the Southwestern division compared to the Southeastern division. But it's not, and winners of those divisions can earn paper. But what I would suggest and what I would do is, as the vice director and even as section manager, one of the things I do is go around and talk to people. And a comment I've received is Paso Robles is in my section, the prior section manager lived in Paso Robles, and I was told by the Morro Bay Club and the Paso Robles Club that they see me more often than their prior section manager in 20 years of him being 18 years of him being section manager. Um, uh, and that I take information back. My job as section manager is to take issues, problems, complaints, and pass them on up. So what I would do is take suggestions like you're making, and pass it on to the contest advisory committee, and say, what are some of the things we can do? How can we do this? And then it has to be sold properly. But I think we could do things like that, like you talking about the National Rifle League. I think those are good ideas, and that we need to take that information to it goes through the committee, and that's the procedure. And then the committee makes recommendations to the board, and then the board votes on whether they want to do that or not. So I think that's something that we can do, and that's what I would do. And I would go in person to as many meetings as I can, to many groups as I can, to events as I can, and gather that type of information. In today's world, we have instant access, Mastodon, other social media sites and platforms, and emails and simple telephone calls. My phone number's out there. So I would appreciate those type of comments.
Great. Thank you very much.
And I've actually made a note of that, so it's okay.
All right. Well, I'd like to move on from contests, if that's okay, and skip to sort of my operations question. During your presentation, you mentioned that podcasts require review prior to release, and that can cause delays when putting out media. And during campaigning, we also talked about how YouTube engagement is restricted, which prevents ARRL's most engaged members who are running from communicating with the public in a meaningful way. Those restrictions, combined with the poorly handled QST transition to digital, are a real problem for the league. The league is not communicating well, which, again, you acknowledged. So what I want to know is, what should be done to make the ARRL more agile in communicating, and who has the ability and responsibility to make those changes?
Okay. Who has the responsibility? That's the board. And the CEO has taken on an active role in making determination as to how the day-to-day operation is taking place. Whether that's appropriate or inappropriate, I think some of the things he should be running through the board, other things that's his responsibility to do. Communications. I talked to one of the newly hired, it's been 2 years now, hired people in the public information department, who was hired to create a social media presence for the league. She came up with some various ideas and basically was told, no, we wanted Facebook. Well, I have 3 daughters. I mentioned Facebook and they just start laughing at me. Dad, come on, get with the times. Facebook is for old people. Okay, maybe we have a Facebook presence for the old members of the league, but we need to move into what is happening today with various formats, and I'm learning about those. So what we need to do is allow our experts to be able to present such things, such nimble, agile, timely topics on their own, and trust them to do that. Now, a major campaign, yeah, we go through the process and making sure the board understands. But we have Zoom meetings capability. We have telephone conferencing capability that's been there for years that hasn't been utilized. There are 2 board meetings a year, and very little changes without going through board approval. And in some ways, that's good. If you're the federal government, that was designed that way, or it's supposed to be that way. For us, for a business, that doesn't work. When we have, the Quansheng FM radio, handheld radio, that's available at Amazon for $27.99, that with a firmware update, you can operate 2-meter CW, and I'm told sideband also with it. Why can't the ARRL take, and they have the resources, we have the resources, we have the people who can do this, but they're not allowed to. Why can't we create a podcast, a YouTube video explaining how this is done, and not worrying about who gets credit for it? I think that's a large part of the issue, is that we don't do anything that we can't take credit for. And I go back to my public relations days. I never got credit for anything I did except for a paycheck. I was a ghostwriter for an author. Or he became an author because I wrote the book for him. And I didn't get credit for that other than a paycheck. And I got the royalties for it. So I think those are some of the issues that we're looking at in allowing people to do their job. And we have to have trust that they're going to do it appropriately and follow the guidelines that the board has set for that. So I think that's probably the most important thing, is there's absolutely no reason why we can't do that. It's just a systemic issue where the board, for some reason, feels they have to have control. And that's my view.
All right. Well, I've given you some tough questions. We've got 100 seconds left. And with that, I'm going to give you an easy one. What are the Santa Barbara clubs doing right that has led to that phenomenal growth?
They're having fun. The break at the meeting and the time before the meeting starts is the best time of the meeting, the social time, getting together with other people. And they're not fighting over the management of the club. The management meetings, the administrative meetings, are separate from the general club meeting. And I think that's probably the most significant thing. And then new people are introduced, welcomed, and they're made to feel welcome. The Conejo Valley Club took a young lady who had never was a technician class license holder, and convinced her that she wanted to be president of the club. And And now 2 years later, because their bylaws say you can only be a president for 2 years, we're trying to drag her out of that position of president because she had support behind her that made her successful and helped her learn her role. So I think those are all the things, but most importantly, it's just having fun, getting out, doing things, having build sessions, field events, POTA events, soda events. We're doing a soda activation. I forgot it's in Camarillo, a private lot, a private house in Camarillo that's a soda site. We're doing that October 4th. And people are excited about going up there to activate the hilltop. So I think mainly it's just giving reasons to have fun and being active and doing things for everyone in the club.
Well, thank you so much
Sure.
for having fun with us today. And with that, we've hit the 1 o'clock hour, so we will let you go. But again, thank you so much for spending the lunch with us.
Thanks. I'm sorry it took so long. I didn't realize I should have had my clock on. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Okay.